Welcome to our deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at the power of belief and how it can shape reality. We're going to be taking a look at Claude M. Bristol's book, The Magic of Believing.
Okay.
Now, I know the title might sound a little
Yeah,
out there, but
it does.
trust me, there's some seriously practical nuggets of wisdom in this book.
What I find so fascinating is that Bristol himself, when he started to develop these ideas, he was actually facing bankruptcy.
Oh, wow.
So it wasn't some abstract philosophy for him, it was lifeline.
Yeah.
And he actually managed to turn his whole company around using these principles that he writes about in The Magic of Believing.
Okay, so he really put this stuff to the test in the real world.
He did.
That's pretty amazing.
Okay.
So how can simply believing in something make it happen?
Well, he starts with this idea that every single thing we do, every action we take, begins as a thought.
Okay.
Think about it. You don't just randomly start eating or getting dressed.
Right.
There's a thought process, however fleeting, behind it all.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do you go from thinking about something to actually achieving it?
Well, that's where things get really interesting, and that's where I have to start thinking about tapping into the power of the subconscious mind.
Okay.
Bristol compares thought to electricity.
Hmm.
We can't see it, but it's a powerful force with very real effects.
Yeah.
And the subconscious is kind of like the wiring
I say,
that connects your thoughts to reality.
but isn't that easier said than done? How do you actually direct your subconscious to, make things happen?
That's where visualization comes in. The subconscious mind works best with vivid images.
Okay.
So it's like you're giving it a blueprint
Yeah.
for what you want to create.
I've heard about visualization, but does it really work? What's the science behind it?
Well, think about it. Every time you learn something new, a new neural pathway forms in your brain.
Right.
Visualization essentially tricks your brain into thinking that you're actually experiencing what you're imagining. This strengthens those pathways, making it more likely that you'll take actions that lead to your desired outcome.
So it's almost like practicing for success, but in your mind.
Exactly. And the more you visualize, the more those pathways become ingrained, making your goal feel more attainable and increasing your motivation to work towards it.
That's fascinating. So visualization primes the subconscious mind. But Bristol doesn't stop there, does he? He also talks about the power of suggestion.
Yeah, he does. And what's interesting is that he uses some pretty extreme examples.
Okay.
Like he talks about how the Nazis used propaganda to actually control the beliefs of an entire nation.
Wow.
Yeah.
But how does that relate to, achieving personal goals?
Well, think about it. If suggestion can influence entire populations,
Right.
imagine the impact it can have on your own mind.
Yeah.
Bristol argues that we're constantly being bombarded with suggestions, both positive and negative,
Right.
and these suggestions actually shape our beliefs, which in turn shape our reality.
So it's not just about planting positive suggestions in our own minds, but also being aware of the messages we're absorbing from the world around us.
Absolutely. It's about being mindful of the information you consume, the people you surround yourself with, even the advertising you're exposed to. Because all of those things are feeding your subconscious mind
Yeah.
with suggestions and shaping your beliefs about what is possible for you.
Okay. That's kind of scary, but also empowering.
It is.
Because if we can be influenced by negative suggestions, we can also be influenced by positive ones.
Yeah,
Easily.
precisely. And Bristol gives us some concrete techniques to harness this power of suggestion.
Yeah.
One that I find really interesting is what he calls the mirror technique.
Oh, yeah, I read about that. Tell me more.
It's so simple, yet it's incredibly powerful. Basically, you stand in front of the mirror and you speak affirmations to yourself as if you've already achieved the things you desire. And he even shares a story in the book of an executive who used this technique to overcome stage fright before a big presentation.
So it's like looking yourself in the eye and convincing yourself that you've got this.
Exactly.
But how does that actually work?
Well, think about it. When you speak aloud, you're engaging multiple senses. You're hearing the words, you're seeing your reflection, and you're feeling the vibrations of your voice.
Okay.
This multisensory experience makes the affirmation more real for your subconscious mind,
Interesting.
strengthening your belief in it.
So Bristol suggests doing this regularly, right?
Consistency is key. The more you repeat the affirmations, the deeper they sink into your subconscious,
Right.
replacing limiting beliefs with more empowering ones.
So it's like reprogramming your mind for success.
Exactly.
That's a pretty cool image. Reprogramming your mind.
Yeah.
So the mirror technique is all about using affirmations. Does Bristol have any other techniques for kind of working with the subconscious?
He does. He also talks about the card technique, which involves writing down your goals as if they've already been achieved
Okay.
and carrying them with you constantly.
Okay. I get that this is supposed to kind of remind you of your goals, but isn't it kind of like, lying to yourself?
It's not about lying. It's about shifting your perspective.
Okay.
You're essentially planting a seed in your subconscious mind, giving it a clear target to aim for.
Hmm.
And by constantly referring to your cards, you're reinforcing that target, making it more likely that your subconscious will work towards bringing it into reality.
So it's like a visual reminder, a way of keeping your goals front and center.
Exactly. Bristol also emphasizes surrounding yourself with inspiring images or quotes,
Right.
things that reinforce that belief that you're trying to cultivate.
Yeah.
It's about creating an environment that supports your goals and your aspirations.
I like that. It's almost like curating your own personal belief system, choosing the messages that you want to feed your mind.
Exactly.
But how does all of this translate into real-world results? Does he have examples of people who've actually used these techniques to achieve their goals?
Oh, absolutely. The magic of believing is packed with real-life stories of people from all walks of life who've used these principles to achieve success, overcome challenges, and even seemingly defy the odds.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Let's dive into some of those stories.
So one that really stands out to me is about this boat builder who needed these very specific tools to complete his project.
Okay,
And he was on a tight budget, so he couldn't really afford to buy all these tools at once.
right.
So he decides to apply these principles from the magic of believing.
Okay, so he just believed the tools would show up. How'd that work?
He focused intently on visualizing each tool, like as he needed it.
Okay.
And amazingly, the tools seemed to kind of just materialize, often through unexpected circumstances. Like sometimes he'd stumble upon them at flea markets for a fraction of the price.
Right.
Other times, people would just give them to him.
Oh, wow.
It's like his belief created this ripple effect, attracting the resources he needed.
That's incredible.
Hmm.
But what about bigger challenges? Can belief really help you overcome, say, a major setback or even a life-altering event?
Well, yeah, Bristol addresses that with this story of a garage owner who was in a serious accident.
Mm.
Not only did he have to recover physically, but his business was also struggling.
Wow.
Most people would be completely demoralized in that situation. But this man refused to give up.
Yeah.
He clung to the belief that he would not only recover, but that he would come back even stronger.
And did he?
He absolutely did.
Wow.
Not only did he make a full physical recovery, but his business thrived.
That's amazing.
He found a new location that was even better than his old one, and his customer base grew exponentially.
Wow. So it's almost like his belief kind of acted as a magnet for success,
Exactly.
even in the face of adversity.
Yeah.
That's really incredible. It makes you wonder just how much our beliefs shape our reality. These stories are pretty wild, but does Bristol have any examples of people using belief to kind of impact things outside of themselves? I mean, can you really influence other people with your thoughts?
He dives into that with this concept of thought projection, which is basically the idea that you can mentally send your thoughts and intentions to others. Now, this is where things get a bit more controversial, but he presents some really compelling anecdotes that suggest it might be possible.
Okay, do tell.
He talks about this lawyer who visualizes the recipient while he's dictating letters.
Okay.
And he swears that by doing this, he's able to actually influence the outcome of his cases,
Really?
getting consistently positive responses.
It's like he's mentally projecting his arguments
Exactly.
and persuading people before they even read his letters.
Yeah, it's like planting seeds of agreement in their minds.
Wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Does Bristol give any other examples of this kind of thought transmission?
He shares this really powerful story of a man whose son was critically ill. The doctors had basically given up hope, but the father refused to accept that his son wouldn't recover. He sat by his son's bedside and just persistently visualized him healthy and vibrant.
So he was using visualization but directing it towards his son.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And against all odds, the son started to improve.
Really?
The doctors were baffled,
Wow.
but the father attributed it to the power of his own focused belief and intention.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about the potential of the human mind to influence healing and well-being.
It does.
Not just for ourselves, but for others as well.
Yeah,
I've always been a bit skeptical of these kinds of things, but these stories are pretty hard to dismiss.
I agree. And Bristol even brings up some scientific research
Okay.
to support these ideas. He mentions the work of Dr. J.B. Rhine, who conducted experiments at Duke University that suggested the reality of telepathy and other psychic phenomena.
Oh, wow. So it's not just anecdotal evidence.
Exactly.
There's actual scientific research that suggests our thoughts might have more power than we realize.
Exactly. Now, it's important to note this research is still controversial.
Right.
Not everyone accepts it as conclusive proof, but it definitely raises some intriguing questions
It does.
about the untapped potential of the human mind. It challenges us to consider the possibility that we might be connected to each other in ways that we don't fully understand.
Okay, so we've covered belief in achieving personal goals, overcoming obstacles, and even potentially influencing others. Is there anything else Bristol explores in the magic of believing?
Well, he also dives into the relationship between belief and money. He talks
Mhm.
about developing a money consciousness, which is essentially about shifting your mindset from scarcity to abundance.
Okay, I've heard people talk about that,
hmm
but what does it actually mean to have a money consciousness? Does it just mean thinking positive thoughts about money?
It's more than just positive thinking.
Okay.
It's about truly believing that there is enough abundance for everyone, including you.
Mm,
It's about releasing those limiting beliefs about money,
like what?
like I'll never be rich or money is the root of all evil.
Right?
These beliefs, according to Bristol, act as mental blocks
Okay.
that can prevent you from attracting financial prosperity.
So it's about clearing out those negative beliefs and replacing them with beliefs that support financial abundance.
Exactly. And he illustrates this with a really great story of a druggist who built a successful business during the Great Depression.
That's a pretty tough time to launch a business.
Yeah.
How did he manage to do that?
Well, he developed this homemade cough remedy,
Oh.
and he was absolutely convinced that it was the best cough remedy out there.
Hmm.
He had this unshakable belief in his product and his ability to sell it.
Wow.
And even though the economy was in shambles, people flocked to his store to buy his cough syrup.
Really?
Yeah. His belief combined with his hard work and a good product led to his success.
So it's not just about sitting around wishing for money. It's about taking action fueled by the belief that success is possible.
Right. It's about aligning your thoughts and your actions with your desired outcome. And Bristol also emphasizes the importance of generosity and
Wow.
giving back. He believed that the more you give, the more you receive,
Interesting.
not just financially, but in all areas of life.
That's a beautiful concept. So money consciousness is about abundance, generosity, and taking action.
Hmm.
Does Bristol address the role of belief in any other specific areas of life?
One thing that really struck me was his emphasis on the power of belief for women.
Okay.
You know, he was writing at a time when societal expectations for women were much more limited than they are today.
Right.
So this focus feels particularly relevant.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm curious to hear more about what he has to say about that.
Well, he truly believed that women, by harnessing the power of belief,
Mm-hmm.
could overcome those limitations and achieve extraordinary things.
Mm-hmm.
And he highlights this with some really inspiring stories.
Oh, I love the story. Share a few that stand out to you.
Well, one that comes to mind is the story of Opal Whiteley.
Okay.
So she grew up in poverty and obscurity, but she was absolutely convinced that she was actually a princess of India.
What?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
This unwavering belief stayed with her throughout her life, and incredibly, she ended up being accepted as a princess later on.
Wait, so her belief somehow paved the way for her to actually become royalty.
It's a story that really makes you think about the potential of belief to shape destiny.
Yeah, it does. Then there's Marie Curie, the pioneering scientist,
Oh, yes.
who made groundbreaking discoveries in radioactivity. Bristol suggests that her unwavering belief in her ability to make these significant contributions to science really played a huge role in her achievements.
That makes sense.
Yeah, she was a truly remarkable woman. It's hard to imagine her achieving all that she did without that unshakable belief in herself and her vision.
Absolutely. And then there's Florence Nightingale,
Okay.
who revolutionized the field of nursing despite intense opposition from the medical establishment at the time.
Wow.
Her story is a testament to the ability of belief to overcome even the most entrenched societal barriers.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's so inspiring to think about these women who defied expectations and achieved greatness, fueled by their unwavering belief in themselves and their missions.
It is. And Bristol reminds us that these are just a few examples.
Right.
He believed that every woman had the potential to achieve extraordinary things if they dared to believe in themselves and their dreams.
That's a powerful message.
Mm-hmm.
So we've seen how belief can shape individual lives, influence others, and even help us overcome societal limitations. But Bristol doesn't just leave us with a bunch of inspiring stories.
No, he doesn't.
He gives us practical tools to actually harness the power of belief ourselves, right?
He does. And one of the most important takeaways is that our beliefs are not just shaped by our own thoughts,
No.
but also by the thoughts and beliefs of others.
Interesting.
We're constantly absorbing messages from the world around us,
Right.
which can either reinforce or challenge our own beliefs.
Okay, so it's not just about cultivating positive beliefs within ourselves, but also being mindful of the messages we're receiving from external sources. How do we do that?
Well, it starts with awareness. Pay attention to the information you're consuming,
Okay.
the people you surround yourself with, even the conversations you engage in.
Yeah.
Notice how these things make you feel.
Okay.
Do they uplift you and empower you, or do they kind of drain your energy and fill you with doubt?
It's a good point.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in negativity, especially with so much going on in the world.
It is.
But if we're not careful, that negativity can really seep into our subconscious and shape our beliefs without us even realizing it.
Exactly. It's about consciously choosing the messages you want to allow into your mental space.
Okay.
Surround yourself with people who inspire you. Seek out information that expands your mind and reinforces positive beliefs, and engage in activities that make you feel good and fuel your sense of purpose.
It's like creating a mental filter,
Yeah,
allowing in the good stuff and blocking out the noise.
precisely. And remember, this is an ongoing process.
Right.
It takes conscious effort to cultivate and maintain a positive belief system, especially when we're surrounded by so much negativity. But the rewards are definitely worth it.
Absolutely. So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've explored the power of belief to shape reality, from achieving personal goals to influencing others and even overcoming societal limitations. We've also looked at those practical techniques for harnessing this power,
We have.
from visualization and affirmations to creating a positive mental environment. So what's the key takeaway we want our listeners to walk away with?
Well, Bristol emphasizes that we are all influenced by thoughts, both our own and those projected by others. And he urges us to become more conscious of our thought patterns, to pay attention to the dominant thoughts that are shaping our reality.
So it's about recognizing that your thoughts have power and that you have the ability to direct that power towards creating the life you desire.
Yeah,
And it all starts with belief.
absolutely. Believe in your ability to believe. Embrace the possibility that your mind is far more powerful than you might realize. And start experimenting with the techniques that Bristol outlines in his book. You might just surprise yourself with what you're capable of achieving.
I love that. It's a call to action, an invitation to really step into our power and create the lives we truly want. And for anyone who wants to explore these ideas further, we highly recommend checking out Claude M. Bristol's The Magic of Believing.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating read that's filled with inspiring stories and practical insights that could change your perspective on what's truly possible.
As always, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time, ready to explore another fascinating topic.
Until then, keep believing. The magic is out there, and it starts within you.
You know, after really diving deep into the magic of believing, I think one question we should all be asking ourselves is, what
Yeah.
are those dominant thoughts that are shaping our reality right now? But it's not just about recognizing those thoughts, it's about taking it a step further
Right.
and asking, what do we want to change or create with the power of belief?
Yeah, that's such a powerful shift in perspective. It's like you're saying, it's not about being a victim of our circumstances or our thoughts.
Yeah.
It's about becoming the architect of our own reality.
Exactly. And that's where I think the real magic happens.
So for someone who's maybe struggling with self-doubt or hasn't really tapped into the power of belief before, where do they even begin?
I think it starts with simply paying attention to your inner dialogue. What kind of thoughts are running through your mind most of the time? Are they mostly positive and encouraging, or are they more negative and self-limiting?
Yeah, it's like tuning into that inner radio station and really listening to what's playing.
Exactly.
And if you don't like the tune, change the station.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that analogy.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we go about changing the station? How do we shift from negative thinking to a more positive and empowering mindset?
It starts with awareness. Once you become aware of those negative thoughts that might be holding you back, you can start to challenge them.
Because those negative thoughts are often just stories we tell ourselves.
Right.
They're not necessarily true.
Exactly.
Once you start to question those stories,
Yeah.
you can start to replace them with more empowering beliefs.
Yeah.
So it's not about denying the negative thoughts. It's more about choosing to focus on the more positive and productive ones.
Exactly. It's about consciously directing your attention towards the thoughts and beliefs that will serve you best.
And that takes practice. It's not always easy to shift your mindset, especially if you've been stuck in a negative thought pattern for a long time.
It does take effort, but it's definitely possible. And the more you practice, the easier it becomes.
And Bristol offers a whole toolbox of techniques in The Magic of Believing to help us with this process. We talked about visualization and affirmations earlier. Are there any other tools that stand out to you as particularly helpful for kind of cultivating that belief?
One that I find really powerful is the idea of surrounding yourself with physical reminders of your goals and aspirations.
Okay.
So, Bristol suggests things like creating a vision board or even just placing inspiring quotes or images in places where you'll see them often.
It's like creating a visual representation of your belief system, a constant reminder of what you're working towards.
Exactly. And those visual cues can be incredibly powerful in reinforcing those positive beliefs and keeping you motivated on your journey.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the magic of believing, what's that one message we want to leave our listeners with?
I think it's this simple but profound idea that we have the power to choose our beliefs. We're not victims of our circumstances or our thoughts. We can create the life we want by harnessing the power of belief.
And it all starts with that first step, becoming aware of our thoughts, choosing the ones that empower us, and truly believing in our ability to believe.
Beautifully said. The magic really is within you. You just have to tap into it.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of belief. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and tools to help you create a more fulfilling and empowered life.
And as always, we encourage you to explore these ideas further. Delve into Bristol's book, The Magic of Believing, and discover the incredible power that lies within you.
Until next time, keep believing in yourself and in the magic of